Hey there, welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast. On today's episode, we are going to be talking to April Brown. April is a business and marketing strategist who's best known as the SEO seductress. She helps business owners turn their goals into measurable marketing plans. When she's not seducing Google or helping her clients woo their wonderful clients, she's off finding new ways to be the world's slowest hiker. Her unintentional catchphrase is "Tats are sexy." I love working with April. She is very intelligent and smart when it comes to SEO and how to maximize your website to bring you profit and bring you more clients. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with April Brown. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome everyone to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today I have with me April Brown, who is the wizard of SEO. I'm so excited to talk to her. I've known April for a few years now. I actually took her mastermind class a few years ago when I was starting into photography, and we've been working together ever since. So I'm super excited for her to share some of the amazing things that she does with you guys. So welcome, April.
Hi, it's nice to be on your podcast.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about just you and what you do overall, where you're at, all the good things.
Yeah, so I am a business and marketing strategist. I specialize in SEO. That is what people mostly know me for. That's how I got introduced to you as well. And I have been doing marketing for 11 plus years. I no longer say anything more than that. It makes me feel very old. So even on my website, it just says has been doing it for over a decade.
There you go. Don't need specifics, right?
No, at this point, no. I came from a corporate background, so I was a marketing director for different corporations over a 9 or 10 year period. I specialized in organic marketing, so I overhauled a lot of websites, managed a lot of teams that do all of the social media planning, the content. The SEO is really where I specialized in as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. It was great, but I wanted to branch out on my own. I have 2 little girls. I wanted to be home for them. And I also really enjoy doing more creative things with people. I think it's a little boring and redundant in corporate. So
I can imagine. Tell us, how did you ended up working with creatives?
I went to school for journalism, so I've always known writers and those kind of creatives, and marketing is a pretty creative field. However, I was giving a presentation in our local Jacksonville WordPress meetup about how to get on Google's radar. And one of the participants came up and started talking to my husband and I. At the time, my husband was a website developer. Now he's a software engineer. And he asked us if we would help him with his site. It was a large membership site for real estate agents. And we had no business at the time. We had never worked with private clients or anything like that. And so, of course, we said yes.
Of course.
Of course.
What other answer would you give? It's something
right?
you've never done before.
No. And so I was like, yeah, of course we can. So that night I was like, how do you start a business? How do you make a contract? I think it took me 4 or 5 days to send it over to him. And it was really, really fun. We had a business together for a long time, I think 4 years. And about 2 years into that, I decided to work more so with creatives. We were working with a lot of corporate clients, so I was doing corporate in my day job and at nighttime. So
yeah,
it's a lot. I was like, let me do some creative stuff. And I fell into Rising Tide, which is also where I met you. And it's all creatives there. I had no idea anything about any of that. And I fell in love. I thought it was super fun.
Yeah, it's really good community.
Oh, I love it.
You do such a good job at working with creatives. I really like how you understand what we do, you understand the mindset of things. It's sometimes hard for somebody that comes from corporate world to really understand the creative mind, and I think you do such a good job with that. So just
Thank
wanted to
you.
mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about what are some of the basics that people need to implement to become findable on Google? Like if you really want to pop up when people are searching for what you do, what are some of the basic things that people need to be looking for?
Yeah. So the first thing is obviously you need a website. So I think a lot of creatives jump in and then they do their websites secondary, which is totally fine. I'm all for that. But I think you really have to sit down and like plan your website and how you're going to use it in order to get found by people, not just what looks very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think on top of that, you have to really pay attention to your SEO and copy. That is one of the things that I find uh, as creatives that they don't pay attention as much to, which is not really their fault. They don't come from a business background. They don't come from a marketing background. They
Yeah.
don't get exposed to any of that on things like Instagram where they're finding out about how to build a business, because a lot of the people on Instagram who are talking about what to do to get clients and to start a business are talking about Instagram marketing and TikTok marketing because
Mm-hmm.
that's how they did it or that's how they know how to do it. It's a very easy segue to get into, like, of course, use Instagram. So a lot of people that just, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes. So I was guilty of doing that. I'm sure probably most of us can say that we thought we could just do our own website by ourselves and that everything was going to be great because hey, we have great pictures to put in there. But quickly realized there's a lot more to it than just nice pretty pictures. Even pictures sometimes can be part of what's keeping you from being findable. There's lots of things that go into that, but understanding that it's important to find those people that are experts in certain areas and really partner with them from the get-go, because the longer you are working on your SEO, the longer you work on your website, the higher the chances of you to start showing. So if you start doing that from the beginning, you're already ahead of most photographers probably around you, because a bunch of people just wait a long time until they start making more money to then invest into somebody to work on their website and SEO, which in my mind is kind of backwards. Right? Build the business that you want from the beginning. Invest as early as you can, if you can, on somebody that is an expert to then start building that traffic towards your website. So tell us a little bit about what are some of the metrics that people need to be watching when it comes to their website and the SEO.
Yeah. So I think one of the metrics that most people don't look at is they don't look at Google Search Console. They don't look at Google Analytics. A lot of the people that when they first start working with me, they don't even have those accounts, and they're completely
Mm-hmm.
free accounts. You just need to put in your email address and put a little piece of code on your website that they tell you how to do, and you can automatically get access to all of your analytics. And I think as far as when you're first starting out, you really need to be paying attention to your impressions and your clicks. Impressions are how many times your website shows up over all of Google for any keyword or inquiry. Even if you're on like page 10 and people aren't going to you, it is counting how many times you're showing up into search results. So that's really important because SEO is kind of a numbers game. You want the impressions to be up there and to be consistently going up every single month because it means that you're showing up more often. And then a lot of times people get stuck just looking at the traffic, especially with SEO. SEO is
Yeah.
only truly about the traffic. So you'll talk to a lot of SEO specialists, and they're really only concerned about getting the traffic to your site. And it's up to you to doing the rest of the business and to try to get people in. But
Mm-hmm.
truly, like, you have to get eyes onto your site, and then you have to figure out how to convert them. So a lot of times people are just worried about the impressions, and they have to then get people to their site, which is the next step. And to do that, you need to pay attention to your clicks. The clicks are how many times people have clicked onto you from an organic search result
Mm-hmm.
across all of Google. You can find these in your search console. It's literally like one of the first things it shows you on the screen.
Yeah.
They even color code it for you so they make it easy. And you want to see those clicks continuing to go up. That means that the SEO that you've put on your site, your meta titles and descriptions, are good enough that they're hooking people in. They're making people want to come to your site. They're interested in you instead of just kind of bobbing out there into space and just getting impressions. And then once you start getting clicks, you need to be worried about actually getting leads. I think that's where a lot of creatives kind of struggle
Yeah.
with. They have the beautiful site, then they work on their SEO because people told them to work on their SEO, and that just really gets people onto the site. And then they're like, why is nobody inquiring or buying? And that is the next step, is to see like, okay, are you actually getting people onto your site who are then inquiring with you or purchasing whatever you have on your website?
Yeah, so many steps that you don't even know you don't know, right? In the
Yeah.
beginning, which is why, again, having an expert looking at things for you so you can focus on taking those nice, beautiful pictures and let people like April help you through the process of understanding what kinds of things you need to be working on, what do you need to be focusing on, how do you not only attract the right person but have them actually reach out to you. Do you have a good call to action? Are you making things interesting enough to hold that person's attention long enough? Because how much time do people spend in average on a website right now?
10 to 23 seconds.
It's a few seconds, guys. So if you don't have good content in there that's going to hold the attention of that client, they're going to easily move on to the next person, right? So it's like waving your picture in front of somebody's face and then keep walking and not actually talk to them and ask them if they want to book you, do they want to have a conversation. So your website is the first point of contact with a lot of your clients. So if you're not putting the effort into making sure that that's working for you and helping you, you're wasting a lot of time, especially in
Yeah.
the beginning.
And you're having to do way more work because you're having to hustle over on social media way harder just to try to get additional leads every month.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit more. You mentioned like, oh, you're in page 10, people are not even going to get to you. What is the ideal spot that people want to be showing at when it comes to Google's, and like what page are we looking for? What place are we looking for?
Yeah. So every business is going to be different. For most creatives who are service based businesses, you want to be on page one, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
honestly, you want to be in the first through third positions. When you go from the first position to the second position, you actually drop off on the amount of chances people are even going to click on your site, whether you have beautiful copy that's hooking them in or not, because people are lazy. So you want to try to get to be as high as possible on page one. And then if you're a local service-based business, not just an online service-based business, you want to try to get into the Google Maps, which shows up right before the actual
Mm-hmm.
search results. And so in order to get onto the Google Maps, you have to have a Google business profile, which is very easy to set up. They send you a little postcard in the mail
Yeah.
to verify yourself. And in, once you do that, a lot of people are looking for people locally, especially for photographers. They're just going to be also lazy, as we all are, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
going to click the first one that they see in the map.
Yeah. So I've heard something a long time ago. So I wanted to see what your opinion is on that. So there was somebody talking about SEO and where you want to be from a placement standpoint. And that person talked about, well, you want to be on the second page, maybe third page, because most people think that they cannot even afford those people on the first few spots are like ads, and they're skipping those first spots and then just going to maybe the bottom of the first page or the top of the second page because they think that that's where kind of their budget's going to land. What are your thoughts on that kind of mindset?
So that is an interesting statement. I would say that might be true if you have like a TV service business, like if you are a major TV corporation or you're a retailer of a major TV corporation and you're trying to like get up there, then yes, people are probably also trying to look on page 2 to see how many discounts they can get, who they can get that cheaper. But if you're a service-based business or if you're a product or anything like that, you want to try to be as possible, because we understand that there's ads. Like, people get that there's ads. They do not care. They'll click whatever they see first. And in a lot of creative market spaces, they aren't putting up ads. So for photographers specifically, in most markets of people that I work in, there's no one putting up ads at all. And so you don't have to worry about the ads as much when you're looking for a photographer. There might be one, maybe I've seen 2. So if you can get up there into the maps, or if you can get up there in the search results, you are going to be clicked more often than people on page 2. A lot of times people on page 2 are not getting clicked, hardly ever. And even on top of that, Google's really going into AI and the generative responses they have. So if your blogs and your portfolios, or session highlights as photographers call them, if those are really good and they answer questions, your answers will be in those generative responses and they will link to you as well. So people on page 2 are definitely not getting clicked as much.
I think that's a really good, important thing that I feel like we don't talk about enough, and we don't understand enough, that having good content on your website from a copy standpoint that is answering the questions that your client is asking is going to help you rank better. It's going to help you get in front of that person better. So we, again, I feel like a lot of times pay too much attention to how pretty things look and how great pictures we have in there, when really people are searching for answer to questions. They want to know what is the best venue in town for a specific type of wedding that they want to have. What venue can accommodate over 200 guests? You know, what are the best locations for an engagement session around them? So those are things that people are looking for. And if you have that content on your website, in the blog, or any kind of space on your website, it's really going to help you jump up in front of that person and show up more. So that's a great tip there that I feel like everybody needs to think about it more, hear about it more. And again, one more reason why we should be hiring people like you to take care of our websites.
I think even beyond that type of stuff, I know photographers specifically and some other creatives are really afraid of putting things like their pricing or what comes with their service and their packages onto their site. They just want to have as little copy as possible so that people will want to inquire with them and get more information. But that is not how the world works anymore, to be totally honest. I think there's a lot of debate between pricing. I think having a starting price is totally fine, because it weeds out a lot of people who wouldn't be able to afford you anyway, instead of being too afraid. So you can even put a lower price there and build onto it by giving them a tailored experience and tailored proposal. But I think that a lot of creatives in general, they don't have like bullet points of what's included in their services or in their packages. They don't talk about what you get in the side. They don't talk about their albums. They don't talk about the digitals that you get. And a lot of times people are looking through this and they're like, okay, but like, what do I get out of 8 hours?
Yeah.
And they're going to see somebody on their site and they're going to have that information and be like, okay, yes, this is the package that I want. And they're going to skip over you. So I think a lot of times when we think about helpful content, I think even the most basic content is missing there. And we have to be like, what do I provide? Like, tell people what you provide. And that is the most basic way to start into the helpful content.
Today's episode is sponsored by PhotoBiz Education. Are you tired of empty calendars? Or worse, feeling like your revenue is capped? I've been there. The truth is, it's insanely frustrating to feel like you're doing everything the experts recommend but never seeing real results for yourself. Stop trying to follow someone else's path. Your business superpowers are completely unique from every other photographer in your area. Let me help you find the key to unlocking your wildly profitable business strategy. Check out our services and resources at photobizeducation.com. That's photobizeducation.com. So let's set some realistic expectations around SEO for people.
Okay.
let's say you start working on somebody's website, they're not even ranking anywhere on the first, I don't know, 20 pages right now. They're just starting. What are a realistic time frame for them to start moving first, and second for them to maybe make it into that first or second page? What are we looking at from a time frame standpoint?
Yeah, so that is a good question. Every website works differently. So I always say that there are certain platforms out there that Google has a love affair with. They just jump up very quickly. And depending on how much work needs to get done on your website, you should plan to spend 3 months just really getting to the point where your website has the pages and the copy and all the H tags that you want. I know that sounds like a long time, but if you have ever had somebody else do your own website or done your website, you know that there's like a ton of steps involved.
Yes.
So it gives you time as well to be like, oh my gosh, I need new photos because I need a whole other page. Or like, oh my gosh, I have to actually sit down and write copy for my own website. And it takes me a very long time to write copy, like if you don't like it. So I think you should plan on taking 3 months to really get it up there. If you can get it up faster, obviously that's better. And then that is like your baseline. So once you have a completely optimized website, you're going to start seeing things go up very quickly. You're going to start seeing numbers move around probably within the first month and a half. You're going to see things go, and it's going to look really cool and exciting to you. I think a good expectation is that you need to start seeing yourself in the right page ranking within about 3 to 4 months. And I'm saying this if you're doing it DIY style, because you might need to be tweaking some things along the
Mm-hmm.
way. And then once you start seeing yourself in the higher page ranking, like page 1, page 2, you should expect to see leads coming in the door within a month to 2 months. If you don't start seeing yourself moving up the rankings, then you know you have an SEO optimization issue. If you don't start seeing the leads coming in the door, then you know that something is wrong with the copy or the design or something on your website where people are not wanting to move further with you. And that's a whole other issue, but it can be solved by the same type of people. So I think realistically, like 6 months to see yourself in the
Mm-hmm.
position that you want to see. That's a really conservative number. A lot of people are going to go faster. I have some people who've done it in 3 weeks and they've started seeing results. And I have some people who take 5 or 6 months just because they are so much lower in ranking than other people. And so you really have to prove to Google that you're a good investment for them to start putting onto the page ranks
Yeah.
you want to be on.
So let's say I'm a photographer in a specific location. I hire somebody to work on my SEO, but so do the other 10 or 15 photographers around me. There's only so much space on that first page. What are we doing? How do we make sure that we are on top as high as we can when there's maybe other people that are also working their SEO and they're also putting a lot of effort into their website? How do we fight that competition there?
Good question. So, one of the things that you could do is to make sure that you have a strategy to be getting reviews on your Google profile. Um, Google reviews will not only help your page ranking overall because
Mm-hmm.
it shows Google, if it's tied to your site, that like you are an interesting person that people are worth talking about, but also typically in most markets, the more reviews you have, the more higher you're going to be in the maps and the search
Mm-hmm.
results for the maps. So there are only 3 results that happen in a map when you search for something. Everyone else
Yeah.
is behind this little button that says see more. So you want to
Yeah.
be in those first 3. So usually those first 3 are the ones that have the most reviews, or they have the most reviews that actually talk about the service that they do. Like they say the word wedding photographer or wedding photos or something like that.
Oh.
And then beyond that, I really like to focus on portfolio pieces or session highlights. If you're a photographer, I think that it is very easy to get ranked with portfolios and session highlights. You're able to target more on specific locations, specific venues, specific types of weddings or even months. And then that will kind of like work the algorithm to put you into those search results. And then once people get onto your page, you can tell more about the love story. You can impress them with your photos. You can talk about the experience and the tears and all the beautiful things that connect people.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets you to get more leads a lot of the time. So I think that once you are really taking it seriously, work on getting your reviews up, and then also work on putting your clients on your website, whether it's in a blog or as an actual page on your website.
Perfect. Let's talk about blogs a little bit since you mentioned that.
Sure.
So, what are some of the things that a good blog should have to help you other than just your pretty pictures in there? So, let's talk about maybe what is an ideal amount of pictures and what are some of the main things you should have in there.
Yeah. So I think that it is possible to have too many photos on your portfolios or even your blogs.
Yes.
I think at some point people are just going to be like, "Oh my gosh, keep scrolling." Like, and they're not actually seeing your pictures. I think having anywhere between 15 photos and 20 something photos is
Mm-hmm.
usually plenty, and anything past that, you are just not actually getting your photos seen individually. They're just kind of that blank stare that comes over their face, and they're just kind of like scrolling through. They're not seeing them. So I think doing that is really helpful to limit it, because then you can use it in other areas of your website. And also, there is a factor of, if you don't know how to optimize your images, you're probably slowing down that page. So having less photos tends to be less bulk and less page speed. So it ends up being better. On top of that, I think it's really important to have sections to your blog. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times when I see people do blogs with their photos, it's like all body copy. There's no sections with headings between them.
Yes.
And Google can read your body copy, of course, but when you have those section headings, they're called H tags in my world. And those H tags come with a hierarchy of 1 to 6. And it's just like the outlines that you had in middle school, right? The first thing was going to be like number one, and then you'd have like a 1A, 1B,
Yes.
1D, whatever. So that is how the hierarchy of H tags works. So the title of your blog is always going to be your H1. More than likely, it's going to automatically make it that, even without you having to do anything, based on your website template. And then having those section headings of like the H2s, if you want to get really crazy, having a couple H3s in there, those are going to help you tell Google that this is what's actually most important about this blog. And you can fit keywords into there, or locations, which is going to be really specific and good for you if you are a location based photographer or creative.
Mm-hmm.
And having that is going to get your blogs up higher. And you can actually bypass other people's entire websites by having those H tags in there. And you can do the same thing for your session highlights. I do that in all of mine, and it works really well.
Yeah. So you can actually have a blog that's answering a very common question that's going to show you on that first page, just your blog, and that because it's answering that very specific question or is giving good information, people are actually going to get in contact with you, getting to your website just by putting the effort on that specific blog. So blogs, I feel like, are very important to photographers and creatives in general to be attracting that ideal client, and definitely something that I feel often it's something that gets put behind. It's on the bottom of our to-do list. It happens a lot when I'm coaching people. It's people know they have to do it. It's one of those things that you got to do it, but you just never get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's something that people put back over and over again. So very important to pay attention to those blogs and to give you an opportunity to start showing up a little bit faster on those top pages.
Yeah. And you would be surprised with the photographers I work with when I first start talking to them about putting their sessions or their blogs onto a site and like coming up with a strategy of what we're going to be talking about each month. They start going through their backlog of photos, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have like 500 weddings that are not on my website and that I've never
Haven't
talked
done
about,
that.
or 500 venues I've been to that are not ever mentioned." And I'm like, "Okay."
Exactly.
Great.
So
You
much
have lots
content
to
just
work with.
waiting to be, yeah, so much content just waiting to be
Yeah.
used, just sitting
It's
there.
it's great for me. I get really excited. I'm like, okay, let's prioritize. But it really sucks because you get so busy, you can't put your best work out there, and you can't put the locations that you want to be seen at and hired
Hmm.
for, and you can't put the locations like the venues either. So I would say that's a really important thing that a lot of people just don't pay
Yes.
attention to.
What is the number one SEO mistake that you see creatives committing when you start working with it?
I saw this question and I got really excited, but my answer is I think the number one mistake that I see creatives committing when it comes to SEO is that they're doing nothing for their SEO.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
can count on my hands, these 10 hands, the amount of people in 12 years of working with corporate and even creative clients, how many people actually put any effort into their SEO or had SEO before they came to me or met me. And it's again just a lack of education and what they should be doing for a long term strategy for their company. And I think that it's a real shame because, again, you're having to do more and try to rely on these algorithms on social media that change every month, I feel like, and is really hard to compete with. So I think that's a mistake I see is just not having it at all.
Not doing it all, right? I'm sure. Yeah. So again, we are guilty of paying attention to certain parts of our business and neglecting other parts of our business, which again plays a role on the amount of people that actually don't survive year one in business when it comes to the creative world, and even less people that survive that second or the first 5 years of business. So really taking the time from the get-go to investing on good SEO, good website optimization becomes crucial to make sure that you're going to have a thriving business for many, many years to come.
Yeah. And I do think too that it is okay in the beginning to be doing it yourself and educating it yourself until you have enough clients coming in the door where you can pay someone else to do it. But I think
Mhm.
just educating yourself is important because even if you have enough money, say with like a day job or some other thing where you can pay someone from the beginning, you have to be knowledgeable enough to actually like understand what people are doing and
Yes.
like really try to manage that because I just hear I even had an email on Thursday, I think, of hearing about a situation where someone was trying to introduce me to one of their clients and they were using an example of what that person had been through with somebody else. So I think you really need to be able to understand at least conversationally SEO yourself
Hmm.
um, before you try to hire somebody.
Yes, I'm a big proponent of that. I want to make sure that you know me, like I want to make sure that I learn as much as possible to hire the right person, hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do. Because if I don't understand what are you going to be working on as my SEO expert, how am I going to make sure that that things are being done, that things are being done correctly, that you're spending the time appropriately on the things you're supposed to be working? Because you can't just say, hey, I'm not on page one yet, what's happening? Understanding the steps to that, understanding why it takes certain time to do certain things, it becomes important. You don't have to do it, but I always feel like even though you don't have to do it, you should understand enough to follow that person, to understand what they're doing, to ask questions so things go in the right direction and you're not wasting your time and your money.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned from working with you, which I didn't know before, was the importance of be constantly updating things. So SEO is not a one and done thing, which I think is what a lot of people think when they think about SEO. There's like, oh, I just have to go on my website, I have to follow all these steps, I have to optimize all these things, and then I'm done. I just sit back and cross my fingers and wait to start crawling into page one. So tell us a little bit about why there should be some constant work and some maintenance work when it comes to SEO, and how does that help you show up and be more findable?
Yeah. So I think that that is a huge misconception about SEO, unfortunately. So let's say you've completely optimized your site and you've re-indexed it, which is just something, again, you do a Search Console. If you're not on Search Console, it's free. Please get onto it. It's my favorite website. Um, Once you actually have your website going, you're going to have to continually be doing maintenance. And I hate that for you. Trust me, I think that a lot of us would love it if it was just going to work forever. But you have to do things like you have to continuously track what keywords you're showing up for and how many times you're getting clicked so that because those things fluctuate. You might be dropping down in rankings after a while. I have a lot of people where they do wonderful for a year or so after we optimize their
Mm-hmm.
website, and then all of a sudden things start taking, and they're like, why is this happening? I'm like, well, have you done anything? Have you touched your website since I did it? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, that's the problem. You constantly have to be showing Google that you are an active website, because that is the type of site and client that they want to be pushing out there into their search results. They do not like having outdated content that they push out. So they need to make sure that, even if you have a blog from 6 months to a year ago, that you're going back and you're maybe updating it. So, like recently with your blog, we have like a wedding expo blog on your site. We had to go
Yeah.
back and change that and update it for the current year because it's not 2023 anymore, which still feels like. But you have to continuously be doing these things. And I think it's also a good thing that you have to be doing these things continuously, like creating blogs, creating session highlights, creating portfolios, updating pages, maybe adding sections or changing sections so that it is targeting different keywords. I think it's really important and even a good thing that you have to be doing this because it keeps you kind of on point yourself. So you can kind of look at your site as a whole and say, okay, what do I see when I look at this site? I see that I'm a photographer, or I'm going to go with photographer because you're a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I see that I'm a photographer. I see I'm in the wedding business. I see I work in Jacksonville. And I see I work at these 3 venues a lot because that's what a lot of the pictures on my site are for. But it might be more than that, right? You might also work at these 4 other venues in town a lot, or you might be a destination photographer and you might go out of the country or out of the state a lot for work. You might have content on your website that is only addressing people in the already a client state. So you're maybe only addressing people of like, okay, like here's all the things you need to know between the time you hire me and the time that you work with me and we show up at your wedding, right? And you're not actually addressing any questions that people have before they even find a photographer. How do I find a photographer? What do I
Mm-hmm.
need to know when I'm planning my wedding? How much should I plan for? How many hours? Like, what should I expect? Do I need to get an album? Do I need to get a video? Like, what do I need to know before hiring you? There's all these levels of the customer journey of between like initial idea to interest to deciding, like making the decision factor of hiring you, and then afterwards. I see a lot of people focus only on the afterwards, like, okay, so how do I prepare for wedding photos the day before? What do I do once I have my wedding photos? And they forget that people are not even at that stage yet. They're like, okay, well, I have no venue. I'm working on getting a venue. I've got a dress. What do I
Mm-hmm.
need in order to get up to my wedding day? And I think as photographers, if you are a wedding photographer, that is like really important information you should be going, but you can do it for anything, whether you're a headshot photographer,
Yeah.
whether you are a brand photographer. There's lots of questions you could be answering. And if you are the person answering these questions and you're the authority to this person on this subject, they are much more likely to go to you because they're going to be like, wow, Nada has so much knowledge. She's been so helpful. I really loved her piece on XYZ. I'm going to go ahead and inquire with her because I think that she would be really helpful leading up to what I need. So
Perfect. Those are amazing tips for everybody that's trying to have better content on their website and just show up more when people are looking for services. Just tell us a little bit about just the services that you offer so people can understand how can they utilize your expertise and your guidance when it comes to their website and their marketing.
yeah. So I work with clients mostly on the SEO side and copywriting. So I help people who are not exactly fans of writing reports and stuff like that back when they were in school get the words they want to say out onto the page. I help turn their website from a beautiful website to a really seductive sales machine. And I do that through copywriting and SEO. And so I have one-off services where I can go ahead and transform your copy or your SEO. And then I have retainer services like the one that I do with you, where I really help you develop more of your marketing plan. We talk about what needs to happen in your business in order to reach your goals. And then I build the content plan and the SEO plan from that. So we work long term, and I do all your blogs and I do all your session highlights for you. And I take the things on your website that you never want to touch again because it's not something that you find interesting, and I find it very interesting. And we work towards the goal of getting you more clicks, getting you more leads. And then I also work with you afterwards on those long-term retainer services on how to turn those leads into easier yeses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that through building different things. So taking a look and auditing some of your other marketing avenues or your workflows so that we can be like, okay, let's make sure everything's saying the same thing. Or what do I need to create on your website so that you can just make this easier for people?
Got it. So if people are not sure what they need, do you do an audit for them so you can help them kind of figure out where to focus your time and efforts?
Yes. Yeah. We do audits for you. If you've never done SEO before, if you are brand new, we can definitely do an audit on your website to start so that not only I can tell you these are the keywords that you should really be ranking for, I can tell you where your site is, what's wrong with your site, and how to fix it. And that kind of creates the map and the foundation for everything that we do or that you do afterwards.
Perfect. So when you're not seducing Google for people, what is your favorite thing to do?
I love hiking. I love being outside. I have 2 little girls that I drag with me very unwillingly everywhere, and a husband who's just as enthusiastic about hiking as me. And we live in Connecticut, so there's beautiful hiking trails, and we're always out on the weekends.
Perfect. It's not often that you find somebody who spends most of their time in front of the computer, but also loves the outdoors. So I always thought that was fun about you and your husband, that you guys love going out for hikes and enjoying the outdoors too.
Thanks. It is really fun.
Yeah.
I will admit I spend way too much time in front of my computer. So I think it's a nice break.
Don't we all? So tell us where we can find you, websites, social media, all the good stuff. Where can they get to you?
So my website is aprilbrown.co, and I'm that as well on all the social media platforms as well. So you can type in aprilbrown.co into Instagram, and you'll also find me there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, April, for coming and sharing all this good stuff with great tips, great action points, and great insight on SEO, what people need to know, what need to be watching, and why they should be getting in contact with an expert as soon as possible, why it's important to really invest on that to make sure that your ideal clients can find you. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.